They say honor is a sword with two sides. And that day, Lord Eddard Stark chose the side no one expected. The streets of King's Landing were wild with noise. Angry men from the north, drunk from too much pride, were shouting in the market square. And right there in the middle, Sir Jaime Lannister, the Golden Lion himself with his sword drawn. He was alone, surrounded by men with fury in their eyes. And not just any men. These were Northmen, Ned Stark's men. They screamed at him, cursed him, spat at him. "Kingslayer!" they shouted, voices sharp like arrows. "You pushed a boy from a tower," someone yelled. Jaime's face didn't flinch. He held his sword like it was part of his body, calm, almost smiling. But even lions bleed when the pack is big. From the steps of the council hall, Ned Stark stood watching. His hand rested on the hilt of ice, the great northern sword, but he did not move, not a word, not a step, just watching. Inside him, something was breaking. He remembered Bran, his son, still in bed, still silent. He remembered Catelyn's tears. He remembered how Jaime had looked so calm after Bran fell, and that memory burned colder than snow in his heart. Then it happened. One Northman rushed forward. Jaime slashed him down quick, but two more came. Then, three. Then, all at once. Swords clashed. Jaime fought like the knight he was, fast, deadly, but even he could not hold off so many. Ned did not shout to stop. He did not send guards. He just watched. One man stabbed Jaime in the side, another hit his knee. Jaime stumbled, bleeding now, his golden armor dented. He tried to speak, but blood came first. A final blade slid into his chest. Jaime fell, on his knees, then on his side. A gasp, a cough, and then silence. The crowd around him backed away. The Kingslayer, dead, in the street, like a common man, and the one who could have stopped it, didn't. Whispers filled the air. Some looked to Ned. Some waited for his words, but he just turned, face hard, and walked away. Word flew fast through the city. Ravens flew even faster. One of them landed on a balcony high in the Red Keep. Cersei Lannister stood there, wine in, her hand smile on her lips, until she read the message. The cup dropped, her hands shook, her brother, her Jaime, her other half, gone. She didn't cry, not in front of others. No, her pain was made of steel. She whispered just 4 words. Ned Stark will pay. The Raven flew fast through wind and sky, crossing fields, mountains, rivers, carrying death in its claws. It landed in Casterly Rock, and when Tywin Lannister opened the letter, something inside him froze. Jaime, his golden son, the pride of House Lannister, killed in the streets like a dog, while Ned Stark, the so-called honorable man, watched. The old lion crushed the letter in his hand, eyes burning. Servants stepped back, afraid. He said nothing for a while, just silence. But when Tywin Lannister stays silent, that's when you know a storm is coming. Cersei, still in King's Landing, already knew. She sat in her chamber, candles around. Her, a dagger beside her wineglass. She stared at the wall, not blinking. Her face was calm, but her heart was fire. He just watched, she whispered to herself. He didn't stop them. He let it happen. Tyrion entered her room quietly, holding another copy of the message. He already knew what she would say. "We can't strike yet," Tyrion said. "If we move now, Robert will see it as treason." Cersei didn't answer. Her eyes looked through him, like he was air. Then she turned. "I don't care about Robert," she said cold. "I don't care about the crown. I care about Jaime. He was mine, my blood, my everything." Tyrion walked closer. "War will cost lives, sister, even ours," she slapped him. Hard. Not with rage, but with sorrow. "You think I care?" she hissed. "Do you think I care about anyone now?" Tywin's raven had already sent a message of its own, not with words, but with gold. Gold to hire blades, silent ones, skilled ones, men who didn't ask questions, men who could reach Winterfell. Back in the capital, Cersei sat with her most trusted guards and began to plan. "We will not strike with swords first," she said. "Not yet. First, we plant the seeds. We turn his family against him. His daughter, the pretty one, the queen-to-be, Sansa, she will write to me, she will listen, and when the time is right, I will use her like a knife through Ned Stark's heart." Tyrion, watching all this unfold, felt sick. He loved his brother. More than anything, Jaime was the only one who ever treated him like a real person. And now, gone. But Cersei was fire now. Fire wrapped in silk and poison. She smiled as she picked up the dagger beside her. "Let Ned Stark keep his honor," she said softly. "Let him wear it like armor. When I'm done, that armor will burn." The first group of hired blades rides north under fake names. Their target, Winterfell. Winterfell was cold, but something colder was coming. Lord Eddard Stark stood by the window, looking over the courtyard. His men trained below, unaware of the shadow rising. Ravens flew overhead, but none brought good news. The wind whispered warnings, though no one could hear it yet. Then came the first sign. Late one night, the guards caught two men sneaking near the stables. Their cloaks were too fine for simple travelers, their tongues too smooth. They said they were traitors. But when Jon Snow searched their horses, he found something strange, a small bag. Inside, blades, sharp, thin, poison-tipped, and a coin. Gold. Not just any coin. On one side, the Lion of House Lannister. Jon ran to his father with the news. Ned read the coin, turned it over in his palm, and knew. Cersei had started her game, and it was dirtier than he ever imagined. The two men were locked in the dungeon, but only one talked. The younger one broke first, fear in his eyes, lips shaking. He said they were sent from the capital, that their orders were simple: make Winterfell bleed, cause fear, distract, and then kill someone important. "Who?" Ned asked, voice low. The man swallowed hard. "The boy," he whispered. "The broken boy. Bran." Ned's heart dropped like stone. Catelyn cried when she heard it. She rushed to Bran's room and sat beside his bed, holding his still hand. Like a mother holds time itself. Arya stood by the door, silent, angry. Sansa sat in her own room, crying. But not just for Bran. Something else pulled at her heart. Confusion. She had just received a letter. From the Queen. It was kind, warm, loving even. Cersei wrote of grief and sadness. She said she missed Sansa's gentle presence in court. She called her a future queen with a queen's heart. And in that moment, Sansa wondered. Maybe the queen wasn't the villain everyone said she was. Maybe the North was being too proud. She folded the letter quietly and hid it in her sleeve. Down below, Ned sat in his chambers, eyes red from thought. He knew now. He had started a fire. Letting Jaime die felt right in that moment. Justice, he thought. But justice had many faces. And now innocent lives were at risk. A raven landed at his window. A fresh letter from the captured assassin's pocket. Inside, not just a message, but a warning. "The lion roars," it read, "but not alone. The South is waking, and winter is not the only thing coming." The assassin reveals under torture. Cersei has made a secret deal with another great house in the South. King Robert Baratheon sat slouched on the Iron Throne, one hand on his forehead, the other holding a cup that never stayed empty. The crown on his head felt heavier now, not with gold, but with lies, regrets, and enemies he didn't want to face. Ned Stark entered the great hall quietly, but with fire in his eyes. He bowed lightly. "Your Grace," he said, his voice calm but cold. "The Lannisters sent killers to Winterfell." Robert laughed bitterly. "And what else is new, Ned? These days everyone sends killers. It's all part of the game." "This isn't a game," Ned snapped. "They came for my son, my family. Jaime is dead, and now they want blood. I need your support before this turns to war." Robert stood slowly, eyes red with drink. "You let Jaime die, Ned. You watched it happen. What did you think would follow?" "Flowers." Ned's jaw tightened. "I did what I thought was right." "No," said a soft voice from the shadows. "You did what felt good." Littlefinger stepped out from behind the pillars, smirking. "Justice often looks like vengeance, especially when family is involved." Ned turned toward him, fire rising again. "You always did talk too much, Peter." Littlefinger just smiled, turning to Robert. "Your Grace, forgive me, but Lord Stark may be rushing to conclusions. Assassins? A Southern alliance? It could all be fear talking." Robert rubbed his temple. "I can't think with all this. Noise. My wife hates me. My counsel lies. My best friend wants to march on the Lannisters. And my son." He paused, frowning. "My son is too young to wear the crown, but old enough to be used as a piece on the board." Ned sighed deeply. "You must choose, Robert. Stand with the North, or watch the realm burn." Robert looked at him for a long moment, then turned his back. "I'll think on it." Ned left the hall with a storm in his heart. Behind him, Littlefinger leaned close to the king's ear and whispered things Ned could not hear. Lies wrapped in truth, like poison in honey. Back in his chamber, Ned found something strange. A letter. Not from a raven, not from the court, but tucked into Bran's old books, hidden behind a page. It was from Jaime, written before he died, words scratched in a shaky hand. "If I die, let them know I wanted to change. I loved Cersei once, but love made me blind. I pushed the boy. Yes, but I never meant for things to go this far. I wanted to leave it all behind. I begged her to run away, but she chose the throne. I chose death." Ned read the words again. And again. A man he hated. A man he let die. But maybe, just maybe, that man was trying to become something more. Behind him, Sansa listens from the shadows, and the first seed of doubt in her father begins to grow. The night was quiet in Winterfell. Too quiet, the kind of silence that didn't feel safe. Ned Stark sat alone in his study, Jaime's letter resting on the table in front of him. The words stared back at him like ghosts, haunting his thoughts. "I wanted to change," Jaime had written. "I begged her to run away." A kingslayer who wanted peace. A man known for breaking oaths, trying to find his way back. Ned couldn't sleep. He thought of his own choices. He thought of Bran lying still in bed, months of silence behind those closed eyes. He thought of how letting Jaime die had felt right in that moment. But now? Now it felt like cutting a tree only to see it fall on your own house. Catelyn entered the room quietly, her face tired. She saw the letter, picked it up slowly, and read. Her lips tightened. "So he was trying to leave," she said. Ned nodded. "I didn't know. Would it have changed anything if you did?" Ned didn't answer. That silence was enough. Sansa stood in the hallway, half hidden by the wall. She had come to ask her father for a new quill. Instead, she heard the letter. She heard her father's voice, soft and cracked with doubt. And something inside her began to shift. All this time, she had believed the story, that Jaime was a monster, that the Lannisters were evil. But if he had loved, if he had wanted to leave, Then maybe not everything she'd been told was the whole truth. She thought of the Queen's letter. So kind, so comforting. And now this, a secret letter from Jaime, buried in a child's book. Down the hall, she walked quietly to her room and lit a candle. She took out Cersei's letter again and read it slowly. There were no threats, no anger, only grief. Cersei had written about her brother with love. Real, deep, human love. Sansa didn't. See her as a monster. Not anymore. She took a fresh parchment, dipped her quill, and began to write. Your Grace, I hope you are well. I cannot say these things aloud, but in my heart I know you understand. She wrote the whole night, and when she sealed the letter, she kissed it once before hiding it under her gown. In the shadows of the hallway, Arya saw it all. Her eyes narrowed. She knew her sister was hiding something, and Arya didn't trust it. Not at all. Back in his study, Ned placed Jaime's letter in a drawer, locked it, and blew out the candle. His last thought before sleep came like a whisper. Honor. What have you done to me? Sansa sends the letter to Cersei the next morning, and in King's Landing, the Queen smiles, knowing the North is already starting to crack. Cersei Lannister sat in her chamber, staring at the fire. Her fingers traced the edge of Sansa's letter slowly, like it was gold. Her smile was soft, but her eyes, sharp like a lion ready to pounce. She's opening up, Cersei whispered to herself. The little bird finally sings. Sansa's words were sweet. She had written about her confusion, her loneliness, how no one in Winterfell understood her pain, how her father had become colder, how she missed court, missed the Queen's gentle voice, her kindness. Cersei folded the letter with care. We'll make her mine. She sent back a gift, a necklace. Not just any necklace, one that once belonged to Joanna Lannister, her own mother, a family treasure. Along with it, a second letter. You are more than a lady. You are a queen. In spirit. One day, I believe you will wear a real crown. When the raven returned north, Sansa opened the box and gasped. The necklace sparkled in her hands. Her heart swelled. She read the letter again, and again. Each word felt like love, like understanding, like home. She hid the gift under her bed and kept the letter in her sleeve. Arya watched it all, from doorways, from shadows. She saw her sister smiling more, walking softer, dreaming louder. But it wasn't joy, not real joy. It was like she had joined another world, one Arya wasn't allowed in. One night, Arya followed her sister quietly. Sansa tiptoed to the library. She opened a hidden page in a book of Westerland songs, and slipped something inside. Arya waited. When Sansa left, Arya went in. She found the letter. But it wasn't from Cersei. It was from Tywin Lannister. Not kind, not sweet, cold and strict, full of strategy. Tywin had written about the North's weakness, about using Sansa's love for Joffrey, about bringing her to King's Landing as a voice of peace. A trick to lure Ned south. Arya's hands shook. She didn't understand all the words, but she understood one thing. Sansa was being used. Arya ran to her father's chamber that night, clutching the letter. She shouted for him, tears in her eyes. Ned took the parchment, read it, and sat down slowly. It wasn't just a child's mistake. It was betrayal. He looked at Arya. She waited for him to yell, but he didn't. He just whispered, "Even the wolves can forget they're in a forest full of lions." Down the hall, Sansa waited outside. She knew Arya had followed her. She had felt it, and now her secret was gone. She cried, but not because she was caught. She cried because she had wanted the Queen's love more than her father's truth. Sansa is summoned by her father. She expects punishment, but he only says one thing. Do you still want to be queen? The cold wind howled outside Winterfell's walls, but inside, a storm of another kind raged. Sansa stood in front of her father, hands shaking, eyes wide. She had been called into his chamber after Arya exposed her. She expected shouting, shame, anger. But Lord Eddard Stark sat still, calm, looking tired more than anything else. He held her letter, her secret, her shame. "Do you still want to be queen?" he asked softly. Sansa's lip trembled. I only wanted to help. I thought maybe the queen, maybe she—" "She lied to you," Ned interrupted gently, "like she lies to everyone." Sansa looked down. She was kind. She was clever. He stood up slowly, walked to the window. "You think being queen is about pretty dresses, feasts, songs. It's not. It's blood, steel, betrayal. It's loneliness wrapped in power. And you're too young to carry that crown." Sansa didn't reply. Down in the courtyard, Arya trained with wooden swords, each strike harder than the last. She watched the guards with sharp eyes, her hands clenched. She wasn't angry just at Sansa. She was angry at everything. The lies, the silence, the danger crawling closer each day. That night, a raven came from the wall. Jon Snow was in trouble. Letter was short. The dead were rising again, and there were whispers that the Night's Watch had traitors in black cloaks. The North couldn't ignore it anymore, but the timing couldn't have been worse. If they sent men to the wall, Winterfell would be weakened, but if they didn't, they risked losing Jon. Catelyn sat beside Ned, her face pale. "If we don't help him, he may die." "And if we—" "Do," Ned said. "We leave the gates open for Tywin." Robb stepped forward. "Then let me go. Let me take men north. You stay. You protect the rest." Ned looked at his son, a boy turning into a man too fast. He didn't want to let him go, but he knew. The family couldn't split more than it already had. "You'll take 200 men," he said at last. "No more." Robb nodded, his jaw tight. The next day, Robb rode out. Jon's fate was now in his hands. Back inside the castle, Sansa wept in her bed. She hadn't spoken to Arya. She hadn't spoken to anyone. The necklace from Cersei lay in a drawer, forgotten or maybe feared. Arya passed by her room, pausing at the door. But she didn't knock. The wolves of Winterfell no longer howled together, and as the snow began to fall heavier, another raven arrived, this one black with a red ribbon. Ned read it slowly. His heart beat faster. Cersei's army had crossed the Riverlands. They were marching. Winterfell had only days to prepare. Sansa walks into Ned's chamber and whispers, "Let me speak to her. I can still stop this." The moon hid behind clouds that night, like it didn't want to see what was coming. Sansa crept through the halls of Winterfell, silent as a whisper. In her cloak she carried parchment, sealed in golden wax, a new letter to the Queen, one last plea. She believed she could reason with Cersei. She believed she could stop the war, but she didn't leave alone. Behind her, in the shadows, Arya followed with light steps and sharper eyes. She'd seen the letter. She'd heard the rustling at night. She knew Sansa was planning something. Again. Outside the gates, Sansa met a rider, a man sent from the Queen. He gave her a fresh horse, told her the road south would be watched. "You'll be safe," he said. The Queen promised. But nothing Cersei promised came without a price. Sansa mounted the horse, heart full of hope and fear. Just as she turned to ride, Arya stepped out from the woods, needle drawn. "Where are you going?" Arya asked, voice low. Sansa froze. I have to try. I can stop the war." "You're not stopping anything. You're helping them." You don't understand. I understand enough, Arya snapped. You keep choosing them. You keep turning your back on us. The two sisters stood in silence, the cold wind between them. Cersei listens to me, Sansa said, desperate. She cares. She killed people, Sansa, Arya shouted. She sent men to kill Bran. She sent lies and gold and blades. She doesn't care about you. She's using you. Tears filled Sansa's eyes. I wanted someone to believe in me. She did. Arya lowered her sword. We all believe in you. We're your family, but you're choosing strangers. Again. For a moment, Sansa said nothing. Then she turned her horse. Arya's heart broke, but her instincts didn't. Pause. She leapt forward, grabbed the reins, pulled hard. The horse reared. Sansa fell. They wrestled in the snow, hands grabbing, voices crying. Sansa hit Arya. Arya shoved her back. Then, without meaning to, the blade cut, a shallow wound across Sansa's shoulder. Blood. They both froze. Sansa clutched her side, eyes wide. Arya dropped the blade, shaking. I didn't mean to. Sansa didn't speak. She just sat there, tears and snow mixing on her face. Arya helped her up, wrapped her cloak around her. You're not going south, she whispered. Not today. The rider tried to flee, but Winterfell guards stopped him. The Queen's seal was found in his pocket, a message ready to be sent back. Ned read it, and this time he didn't hesitate. He called the banners, sent ravens, locked the gates. The North would fight, together. But they were wounded, not just in body, but in heart. From a high tower, a scout returns with urgent news. Tywin's army is only 2 days away. Snow covered the ground outside Winterfell like a shroud, but no one felt peace. Tywin Lannister's army was close. 2 days turned into 1. Then hours. Now they were at the edge of the forest, fires burning, steel ready. The lion had come for revenge. Inside the castle, the Starks stood together, wounded but not broken. Ned wore his old armor, the one he had not touched since the rebellion. Catelyn walked among the women and children, making sure all were hidden safely in the crypts. Sansa stayed in her room, the necklace from Cersei now buried deep under the snow. A choice made, but scars still fresh. Arya, armed with needle, stood at the wall with the men, her face stone, and just before the first horn blew, Jon Snow rode in. His horse was near death, his cloak frozen, but his eyes were full of fire. "They're coming," he said breathlessly, dismounting. "But I couldn't stay away. Not now." Ned looked at him and nodded once. Father to son, brother to brother. The North was whole again. When Tywin's army reached the gates, there was no talk, no offer of peace, only war. The first wave came fast. Fire arrows, ladders, swords against wood and stone. But the North pushed back. The men of Winterfell fought like wolves in a den. Robb returned at sunrise, his men bloodied but alive. They struck from behind, a surprise flank attack that broke the Lannister right. Catelyn prayed. Sansa wept. Arya fought beside a bannerman twice her size. And Jon cut through the enemy like the cold wind itself. In the heart of the chaos, Ned met Tywin's personal guard. Steel clashed, shields cracked, blood soaked the snow. Then a cry went. Up Tywin Lannister had fallen. An arrow through his shoulder, a sword through his thigh. He was pulled back by his men, bleeding, but breathing. He would live, but only barely. By nightfall, the lions had fled. Winterfell stood. Smoke rose into the sky. Bodies were burned. The snow turned red, then black. But still, the banners of House Stark flew high. The people cheered, but Ned Stark didn't. He stood at the edge of the field, eyes empty. "So much blood," he whispered, "for one decision." Beside him, Jon nodded. "But you stood for your house." Ned looked at his children. Sansa resting in Catelyn's arms, Arya sharpening her blade, Robb tending to the wounded. "No," he said. "They stood for me." A dying Lannister soldier is captured. With his last breath, he gasps, "This wasn't the real war. The Queen has another plan. This was only the distraction." The fires burned low in Winterfell. Smoke drifted through the air like old ghosts. The battlefield was quiet now, the screams gone, replaced by slow breaths and silent prayers. Men lay on wooden boards, bandaged and still. Wolves padded through the halls, sniffing old blood. Lord Eddard Stark walked alone across the courtyard, past broken arrows and bent shields. His armor was dented, his legs stiff, his eyes heavy. He had won the battle, but not without losing something. He climbed the tower stairs slowly. From the top he could see the forest beyond. Tywin had retreated, yes, but the dying Lannister soldier's words haunted him still. This wasn't the real war. Back in the Great Hall, Jon Snow sat beside Arya, sharpening needle in silence. Sansa sat nearby, her eyes open but distant. She had returned fully to her family, but the trust, the bond they once had, would take time to grow again. Robb stood at the wall with Theon Greyjoy, watching the trees. They didn't speak, they just waited. And in the crypts, Catelyn lit a candle beside Bran's bed. The boy still slept, unchanged, quiet as the grave. Ned entered, sat beside her, and held her hand. "Jaime died like a man," he said softly. "But maybe he died trying to become something better." Catelyn looked at him. "You think he would have changed?" "I don't know," Ned said, "but maybe I should have let him try." She nodded, no blame in her eyes, just sadness. They sat in silence until a knock came at the door. A raven. This one bore a black seal with a dragon carved deep. Ned opened it slowly, fingers careful. The words were short. "The war is not over. The dragons have heard your name. Daenerys Stormborn comes for the realm, and she will not care who started what, only who still stands when the fire falls." He read the message twice, then looked up. The game wasn't ending. It was only changing. Back. In the yard, Sansa approached Arya slowly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Arya didn't speak, just stared at the blade in her hands. Then, quietly, she passed it to Sansa. "You'll need to learn," Arya said. "The world's not made for soft hearts anymore." Sansa took the sword, not with joy, not with pride, but with the quiet acceptance of someone who had learned the hard way. That night, Ned wrote a final message. He didn't send it to King's Landing. He didn't send it to Robert. He sent it to every northern house, Karstark, Umber, Mormont. "Winter has come. The lion has roared, and soon the dragon will burn. Stand with me, or stand alone." Sealed it with ice and wax. Then looked toward the sky, where the stars were no longer calm. One choice. One man. One moment of silence while a lion bled in the streets. And now the realm would never be the same again. Because when honor draws blood, the whole kingdom bleeds.